of creating durable images by recording light either electronically by means of an image sensor or chemically by means of a sensitive light material such as photographic film. It is employed in many fields of science, manufacturing, business, as well as art, film and video production, recreational purposes, hobby, and mass communication. So, to understand the world of photography and its magic in capturing, today KCC Institute of Legal and Higher Education welcomes Mr. Pankaj Veerkar, sir, who is a mentor in the Mark Institute of Art and team leader in DCP Expeditions LLP. We
Thank you so
welcome
much.
you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I would now kindly request our respected director, ma'am, Dr. Bhavna Agarwal, ma'am, to introduce our guest of the day.
Thank you so much, Saraswati. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I, on behalf of KCC Institutes, welcome Mr. Pankaj Veerkar to be with us for conducting this creative photography webinar, Magia. Mr. Pankaj Veerkar is an engineer by qualification, professor by profession, and a photographer by choice. Based out of Mumbai, he is a self-taught photographer and like to click to make ordinary look beautiful. He specializes in creative travel, landscapes, street photography. He has to his credit a novel cover published from UK and has remained winner in number of contests and exhibitions, Kolkata Journalist Clubs 2016 and 17. To mention one of the many significant, he has an amazing sense of composition. He loves to share his knowledge and has amazing teaching acumen. He is a photography mentor with Lee Mark Institute of Art. So let us welcome Professor Veerkar.
Thank you so much, madam. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your kind words, and I'm so glad to be here. And thank you so much for giving this opportunity, like to address your students. It will be my pleasure to have all of you here. So, should I start, ma'am, or are we done?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Screen sharing is not allowed for me.
Okay, just let me check, sir,
Yeah.
please.
Screen share. Great. Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure.
If you can see my slide, I'm Saraswati.
Yes, sir. We can see the slide. Yes, sir.
If you can see my slide, right?
Yes, sir. We can see the slide.
Okay. Fine. So good afternoon, everyone, and I'm glad to be here with KC Institutes, and I would like to thank Bhavna Madam again for giving me this opportunity. So I'm here with Magia. I mean, I just beg your pardon. I just added a word, the magic in capturing magic. That's what we'll be doing here, right? So we'll be trying to. I'll be glad if you can at the end of this. So if you can eventually be able to capture some magic when we are done with this. So I am Pankaj Veerkar. I'm a mentor of photography at Lemark School of Arts, and I'm a former team leader with DCP Expeditions. So just a small glossary of what I have been through. So I actually started photography seriously some 4 years back in 2016, though I had all type of cameras with me. But then no, it's just that I wasn't able to spend time, and some 4 years back I thought seriously of getting into it. So straight away, my work was kind of appreciated and was recognized, and no, I was among the top 10 child photographer in the year 2017. I was winner at the annual exhibition at the Kolkata Journalist Club. It's been exhibited at many national exhibitions, and I have a cover of a novel published from UK. In fact, as a matter of fact, I would not like to talk too much about myself. I'll rather like my work to do the talking, right? So moving on to just talk about the way this flow of the webinar is, right? I'll be talking about composition. So a good part of this whole webinar will be spent on how to compose images, what are the rules of composition. And the later part will be about how to take creative photography. So I'm expecting the audience to be, kind of not too much. I mean, rather, I would not talk too much about the technicalities I'm not talking about ISO I'm not talking about the f-stop value, not about the exposure triangle at all. So I'll be just talking about the artistic part of taking an image, of creating an amazing image, right? So that's what composition and the creative part of photography is what will be my thrust, so main area of thrust of this whole webinar. Okay, so let's start straight away and go over what composition is. No, we all have heard about, बहुत सुनते हैं ऐसा कि म्यूजिक कंपोजर क्या करता है. So what does the music composer actually do? To understand what is composition in terms of photography, you need to understand the meaning of the word, what composition is. Like, so we have heard so many times music composer. What do they do? तो सिर्फ वो सात सुरों को आपस में कहीं पे प्लेसमेंट अलग अलग करते हैं, and they get different tunes, right? Get different music. That exactly is what composition in terms of photography is. It's about placing the objects, whatever you see in front of you, placing them properly in the frame. So what is important is what you exclude as much as what you include. So we should be able to judge whatever we have to include in the frame. At the same time, we should be making a good decision on what is to be excluded. And then whatever we have included, we have to place them inside the frame. That is what is the basic idea of what composition. That is what I believe as a definition of any good composition is. So there are many rules of composition, right? I mean, I have just I'm taken some four of them, which are really very basic. So the first is the rule of thirds. Then we talk about the leading lines, then the point of view and the perspective. Right? There are many more if we go on adding. Then I mean, there is symmetry, there is pattern, there is texture. So many words would come up. But these form the basic idea of what the rules of composition should be. So my whole of the flow of this webinar would be, I'll be sharing my images. I'll be sharing what was thought behind those images. I'll be sharing how have the rules of the composition being applied, and that is why they look whatever they look. I feel they look good, so that's why I'm sharing here. Okay. So moving on to what the rule of thirds is, right? The very common mistake we all do as a beginner photographer is to put the subject in the center of the frame. Well, studies say that the center of the frame is the weakest point, right? And as we move the subject towards either of the edges, towards vertically up, towards the bottom edge, towards the right edge, towards the left edge, it gets prominence. So ये जो हमारी गलती है कि हम हमेशा सब्जेक्ट को सेंटर में रखते हैं, जब भी स्टार्ट करते हैं, that's what we always do. Even I did the same. So I was in habit of kind of shooting everything that I'm shooting from, putting them in center. But later on, when I explored myself, when I learned the art, just when I realized that this rule has been established centuries ago and still holds so much prominence, so much importance. So that is why, initially हमारी tendency होती है कि हर चीज को बीच में रखने की. But it turns out that whenever you are trying to put the subject in one third, be it horizontal one third, be it vertical one third, the subject actually pops up as with respect to the background. So how do you apply the rule of thirds? So in fact, every mobile phone has the same time. So every mobile phone, every camera do have this grid. So I'll rather kind of suggest you all to put the grid on in whatever camera you're using, be it DSLR, be it a compact one, or be it even your mobile phone. So the rule of thirds simply says that you have to put. In fact, the rule of third divides the entire frame into 9 boxes, right? You can imagine that there are 3 vertical columns, there are 3 horizontal rows this way, right? And the rule says that if you put your subject on either of these 4 points, that is where the rule of thirds is applied. Not strictly that way, but still, what I'll rather say is you can put your subject in this third or in this third, meaning the left third or the right third, or the top third or the bottom third. Never put your subject in the center box here. So that is what we have a tendency to make mistake. We always do this. no, we should avoid doing this hereafter, right? So always follow the rule of third because that enhances the beauty of the image. I'll share some of my images straight away in which the rule of third was followed, right? So that's a typical landscape. And no, in fact, I shot it in last monsoon because this year it was not possible to go out, right? So I shot it last year at a place near Nashik, and it's a very photogenic place. I would say very beautiful landscape. So what I did here was I just saw very nice cloud formation, and this water body, and generally what people would do is is to shoot it from here, shoot it from here. Well, I chose to keep this rock in my frame. The rock is a very prominent subject here, and the rock is in the lower third. The other entire thing, the tree, the clouds are in the upper third, right? So that what does that do whenever I am following the rule of thirds is uh, we I am forcing the viewer to first see this because that is the first thing, right? हमारी आंखें ऐसी जाती हैं. So that is the first thing that the viewer will see, and then it leads all the way into this, and then he's forced to see everything that comes in front. So over here, if you see the rule of thirds is being applied, this is where the lower third is, that's where the upper third is, and the center is the entire water body. So in landscape photography, it is a must. I mean, it is always a case that no, you should have a very prominent foreground, right? So when we do this, a very simple rule for landscape photography, I'll just quote here is, no, we should have a strong foreground. And then when we do this, we inherently are putting the the subject, whatever is in the one third, when we shoot a foreground, strong foreground, we are putting that in the lower one third, and the entire landscape then goes in the and like in the half and like in the upper one third. So that is how we are trying to force the audience right from the bottom of the image towards the end of the image. So that is how, right, the rule of third works, right? So I'll just share one more image that I shot at Maheshwar. That is a place near Indore in MP. Actually come uh, from Indore, and so it's a very nice place that's at the bank of the river Narmada. And I just was up at the morning to see the sunrise, and I just saw this person kind of in deep meditation. Now, again, see the rule of thirds and the way it is applied. Well, I put the subject in the vertical one third, there's the left one third, right? And I kept this whole frame, kind of empty, just for a reason, so that no, the viewer gets an idea that this person, for this person, इस आदमी के लिए ये सारा जो भी दिख रहा है सामने वो सब उसके व्यू में आएगा. That is what I wanted to show, and that is what happens when I'm kind of putting this person in the left third, in the one third, vertical one third of the frame, right? So that is what gives the sense of of this person being able to see the entire view from the sun all the way here, right? So just think if this person was placed in the middle of the center, I mean, and just in the middle of the frame, it would not have been that impactful. The image would not have been that great, right? But putting him over here in the one third thus gives that sense of this person being able to view a lot in his entire scope, right? So that is how the rule of third works, right? You either put your subject in the lower third or the upper third or the left third or the right third. Never put them in the center one, right? Okay. Now, if you see at this image, the one thing that I'm sure would attract everyone's attention is the leaf, right? This leaf that is again in the one third part. Now, this would not have made that impact if the leaf was here. No, think of, imagine this leaf to be here. Okay, so this leaf is in the left third, and no, that is where you are being attracted to see first thing, right? The leaf in the shape of a heart is an added advantage that no heart hai or fir it is all going through. So this is actually in the lower third as well as the right third. So that exactly in the ninth column, एक तो जो नीचे का जो box है उसके अंदर है ये leaf. So that is what makes this interesting. In fact, I'll just share a trick here. मैं जब इस जगह पर गया था तो ये पत्ता नहीं था वहाँ पे. But because my habit is to, so like I said, when I'm shooting landscape, I always tend to keep a strong foreground. Foreground चाहिए, because that is where, like I said, अगर मैं foreground रखूंगा तो inherently 1/3 में ही आएगा. It will come in the 1/3 in any case. So that is why I was just looking around and I saw this leaf somewhere, right? So I just plucked this leaf and planted it. इसको रखा मैंने, तोड़ के लाया और रखा. Sometimes you do, because otherwise it would have been a blank space throughout, right? पूरा खाली दिखता था. पर मेरा इंटरेस्ट ये था कि मुझे कुछ यहाँ पे 1/3 में रखना है. I wanted to keep some interesting subject in the 1/3. So that's why I just plugged a leaf, placed it here, so that this has added so much value to the image. In fact, अगर ये पत्ता हरा होता तो और अच्छा दिखता था. But then whatever I can find, I have just used and just placed here. So no matter what it is, but it is still, I mean, hara ho ya peela ho, it is still like a subject that actually is kind of attracting you. First thing that you see in this image is that leaf, and then you are kind of drawn into the entire image, the water body, the hills, and the clouds. So the rule of thirds is, like I said, have been proven over and over again, and they will be proved for times to come. So we should stick with those rules to begin with. Like I said, even with I'm assuming the audience to be a mix of those who have like a DSLR and those who shoot with a mobile. So even if you're shooting with mobile, in fact, ये photo मैंने मेरे mobile से लिया हुआ है, right? So even if you're shooting with mobile, you just need to follow these rule of composition. So ये rules सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं कि these rules are just for the image that are clicked by a DSLR. They work in general in whatever images you are clicking, whichever image you are clicking, they should hold. So be it a compact camera, be it a hybrid camera, be it a DSLR, or be it a mobile. The rule of composition are always true for no matter what image, no matter what medium you have clicked it with. So that is about the rule of thirds, right? Moving on to another very important aspect of composition, that is to include the leading lines. What do the leading lines do actually is they draw your attention all the way into the image. पूरा ध्यान जो है viewer का, they just take you through the journey, I would say. So the leading lines take you in the journey in the image. पूरा image दिखाने का force करती है leading lines. जो भी देखता है उसको वैसा ध्यान, but I mean, that's how they have to look into, right? So if it may look strange, but the image that I'll now share, you will understand what exactly do I mean. Now just look into it, right? It's a simple guitar, जो हमारे पीछे रखा है, no? So that was shot just as I mean, you must have seen so many images of a guitar, but never, I'm sure you might have not seen any image like this. So I was sitting at home, I know, just so lockdown has been a kind of blessing in disguise, that I was able to do a lot of creative stuff. तो ऐसे ही बैठा था घर पे, तो क्या करें, तो I just picked up my guitar while I was done playing, kind of thought of taking an image. So now just look into it. Now what is this, what does this image draw your attention into? ये आपको लेफ्ट हैंड से ये जो गिटार स्ट्रिंग्स हैं और ये जो गिटार का पूरा प्लेट है, दिस होल इज ड्राइंग यू ऑल द वे into this to this point. That's what are the leading lines for. So ये जो guitar strings हैं, all the 6 of them, the way they have been clicked, they are forcing you to look into this image from the left all the way into this bridge. यहाँ तक आपको देखने को मजबूर कर रही हैं. That is what leading lines do. So they force the viewer to look through the image. The journey of the image is important, right? So moving on to some more clicks that I have taken, keeping in mind the leading lines in place, right? So, okay, that's the famous Bandra Worli ceiling in Mumbai, and that is what I have shot so many images at. I have shot this ceiling at every possible angle. And now, I was at a place called Worli Kolivada to shoot this, and now I hope the idea of leading lines is now clear, right? The main attraction, of course, are the lights, the way they are sparkling, right? So that's a trick. It doesn't take much, right? So whenever I'll just share the trick at the same time to get those light sparks or to get a sun star that will come in my next image, right? So to get a sun star, that is the sun looking like a star or the light that looks like star here, sparkling stars, all you need to do is to keep your f-stop number if you are using a DSLR over and above 16, right? And because that's a long exposure shot, so that was for I guess around 2 minute shot. So they naturally the lights that are wherever the light source they will automatically look like sparkle if you are keeping f number 16 and higher. So this f number का बात है वो DSLR वालों के लिए है. मोबाइल में ये सब नहीं हो पाता. You just can't change the f-stop number till 16. So that is what is the limitation. So with all the mobiles, but I am expecting the audience of some of them which are using their DSLR as well, right? So I understand that the majority of the students are the students of KCC Institute of mass media. So I'm expecting them to have their cameras anyways, right? So uh, just a trick. That's the trick here, right? To have those sparkling lights, right? By having an f-stop number that is 16 and above, and long exposure shot will give you this anyway. Now just coming over to our topic of what leading lines are. Now just see this, right? Apart from those sparkling lights, no, what draws your attention is the way this bridge, the way this line takes you through the journey all the way here, right? So the bridge here is forming the leading lines, a huge structure. In my previous image, I have shown just simple one, right? Guitar ki string can be leading lines. So you have to, whenever you're composing an image, just try to see if you are getting a leading line from somewhere, right? Try if you're getting some leading lines, right? Those leading lines may not be straight. जरूरी नहीं कि leading lines straight हो. So whatever draws your attention inside the image are what we call leading lines. They can be curves as well. Not necessarily they have to be lines which are straight. Whatever draws your attention in the image, right from beginning towards the end, deep inside, are what we call the leading lines. So over here, the bridge itself, the entire structure of the bridge itself is serving as the leading line, right? So it draws you from here all the way here. The first thing that you see in this image, no, in fact, when I shot it, that's what my objective was, that the viewer should be able to see it from the left. एंड ऑफ कोर्स ये एक रीजन और हो गया कि यहाँ पे लाइट स्पार्कलिंग लाइट है काफी ज्यादा प्रोमिनेंटली दिख रही थी वो पास में था सो बिकॉज आई वाज नियर टू दिस एंड सो आई वांटेड द ऑडियंस टू बी ड्रॉन फ्रॉम दिस एंड ऑल द वे इनटू द राइट एंड सो वो कंपोज ऐसा किया कि द एंटायर स्ट्रक्चर द ब्रिज द सीलिंग स्ट्रक्चर is forming the leading line all the way here and drawing you all the way there. Okay. So of course you must have seen those ghost images. ये सब वहाँ पे boats parked होती है fishermen की. वो boats का blurriness आ गया because it was sea. It's actually a sea. It's the Arabian Sea, which is very turbulent. But because the image was a long exposure image, so it actually was kind of smoothened out. तो सारा जो पानी का मोशन था वो बहुत सिल्की सा हो गया. So it actually looks like a mirror, but it is not. Right? ये अभी जो आजकल के इंस्टाग्राम पे हैक चालू है कि मोबाइल फोन को लगा के ऐसे इमेज देते वो नहीं है. It's not that. This is not a mirror. This is not a mobile phone on which the reflection is sought. No, it is not. It is the Arabian Sea, turbulent water, right? But because the image was shot for long exposure, therefore that this whole water got smoothened out, kind of gave a silky and milky effect, right? That is a trick. I would like to share all the tricks that I have learned over whatever time we get here. Okay. So moving on to the leading lines again, the famous Howrah Bridge. So, the structure of the bridge itself is drawing your attention from left to right. So, like I said, now whatever draws your attention from one end to the other in image is a leading line. तो यहाँ पर तो इतना बड़ा ब्रिज है, वो उसके पहले वाले में इतना लंबा सीलिंग था, राइट? उसके पहले बहुत छोटी सी गिटार स्ट्रिंग थी. इफ यू कंपेयर देम, राइट, व्हाट इज द लेंथ ऑफ अ गिटार स्ट्रिंग एज कंपेयर टू द as compared to the ceiling, or for that matter this Howrah Bridge, right? So it's actually minuscule. The guitar strings are actually minuscule, but then still they were drawing your attention because the way they were composed. Okay, that is what is important. So this Howrah Bridge again, I shot this at I think around 3 in the morning. I just landed. at the Kolkata airport around 2:30 and straight away headed to Howrah station and just got this image. So it's very rare that you see those lights like on the bridge. Well, I was there at 3 in the morning, so these lights were all in full glow. And again, the water is pretty smooth. The trick is, and the trick for those sparkling lights is f16 and higher and a long story short. That is it, and you are done. Right? It didn't take much to get those sparkling lights. It's not a trick. I mean, this all over the place, right? It's just I am a medium to tell you that is how it is done. Okay, so again the same ceiling, like I said, no, the Bandravali ceiling. This the two parts of the two traffic ways of the ceiling are so overwhelming here, right? एकदम ऐसा लगता है कि सिर के ऊपर चढ़े हुए. इनफैक्ट वो मेरे सिर के ऊपर ही थे. They were all on me, and I just now kind of compose the image so that they are taking you through the journey, right? जब आप ये इमेज देखते हो तो आपको सबसे पहला ध्यान ऊपर ही जाता है. The first thing that attracts you is this is so overwhelming. It's coming on to you, all over you, right? So then you start looking at this, and then your attention goes to the sun star, right? फिर ये sun set हो रहा था. मैंने पोजीशन ऐसी ली कि सन जो है वो थोड़ा सा कॉलम के पीछे से आए. That's a trick of getting a sun star, right? You must have seen those images so many times, right? In which a sun looks like a sun star, right? So that's a trick. The trick is very simple: f16 and higher. And when in daytime, when you are not able to get a long story short, right? Just let the sun come through an obstruction. थोड़ा सा सूरज को किसी किसी obstruction के पीछे से आने दो. Just the light rays of the sun should be blocked. It should not be in full view. अगर मैं थोड़ा सा भी लेफ्ट में जाता तो मुझे मैं अगर थोड़ा राइट में जाता तो मुझे सन बिल्कुल बीच में दिखता है. But I chose to come towards one end so that I see the sun coming through some obstruction, and that was this whole column, the pillar of the ceiling, right? So I mean, just a trick again to tell you how to shoot a sun star, right? So f16 and higher, those who have a DSLR, right? And let the sun come through an obstruction, and when you through the viewfinder you will actually see those rays, and you are done. Sure है कि तुम्हें संस्कार मिलने ही वाला है. Try it out whenever and just connect with me if you get that image, right? I'm sure you will get if you follow what I've told you. So coming back to the idea of what this whole image is about, it's about leading lines. So I was at the Bandra end, right? So ये Bandra Worli ceiling है. I was at the Bandra end, and this end over here at the bottom is the Worli end. ये ब्रिज वहां पे खत्म होता है. तो मैं ऐसा इमेज लिया, मैंने ऐसा इसको कंपोज किया कि लाइंस जो हैं, जो ब्रिज है पूरा का पूरा, that draws you, तुम्हें देखने को मजबूर करता है. It draws you all the way from here till here, and then it makes you see all the way here. तो आपका ध्यान ये जो स्काई स्क्रेपर्स हैं वर्ली के, वहां पे आखिरी में जाएगा. पहले ध्यान आपका यहाँ पर जाएगा. The first thing that when this image comes to you is this overwhelming road of the two ways of the ceiling, and then you are drawn to see the sun star, and then you are drawn to see the entire thing that comes here. So that is what leading lines. Like I said, ये straight line तो नहीं है, right? These are curved lines, right? So like I said, now whatever draws your attention inside a frame into an image are what you call leading lines. Pretty simple, right? It can be curved lines, can be any line for that matter. Straight चलता है, नहीं है तो यहाँ पे curved line बनाई, जो भी attention लेके जाएगा image में वो leading lines हो गया, right? And the other aspect in composing an image is the point of view. Okay, so the point of view is the way we see into the subject. Now this temple is the largest shivling that, I mean, this temple houses the largest shivling in India. That's the Bhojpur Shiv Mandir near Bhopal. Okay, so I happened to be here in 2018, and now when I reached there, I just saw the typical run-of-the-mill shots, right? इसके अगर इस मंदिर की अगर आप इमेज गूगल करोगे तो आपको टिपिकल वो मंदिर के शॉट दिखाई देंगे. सामने पूरा मंदिर है, बड़ा सा गेट है, और बहुत दूर से फोटो लिया हुआ. दैट्स हाउ इट इज. But no, I chose to compose in a different way. So I was looking for an opportunity to go down. So the largest in the sense that uh, from the floor it stands. So ये बहुत ऊंचा है. This shivling itself must be around 10 feet high. The pier itself is around I mean again 10 feet high. So from the bottom to the top, from the place it's installed to the top of shivling, it is must be around 6 to 7 meters high. Okay. So I was looking for an opportunity to shoot this in a different way. So what I did is I had thought of getting a different point of view. क्योंकि मुझे वो typical run of the mill shot नहीं चाहिए था. I know क्योंकि मेरे लिए इस इमेज में ये जो ऊपर शिवलिंग के ऊपर जो छज्जा है, this was also very interesting for me. So I thought of why not include that Shivlinga, the largest one in India, with the beauty of this whole. So I went down, right? I just climbed down this, and this pier was around 3 or maybe 4 feet above my head. I was standing full. I am 5'8", and this pier must be around uh, 3 or 4 feet above my head. So I composed an image. I chose a point of view like no one else has done. Right? आपको इस तरह की इमेज इस मंदिर की कहीं पे I can guarantee you because I have done a lot of research, and after seeing so many images of the similar kind, I just thought of taking something different. So I just came here, I just climbed down, went I just went beneath this pier and shot it. अब इसमें मैंने कंपोज कैसा किया कि शिवलिंग दिखाई दे. So I have to take some odd angles. मुझे कैमरा पूरा ऐसा ऊपर हाथ ऐसा करके लेना पड़ा. Otherwise the shivling would not have been in the sight, right? तो मेरे लिए ये भी इतना important था. I wanted to include, like I said, composition में क्या है, what all you include. So I mean, if I would not have taken my hand above my head, I would not have been able to include this shivling. तो पूरा एसेंस ही खत्म हो जाता. मैं शिवलिंग को ले नहीं पाता क्योंकि वो छुप जाता और फिर मैं सिर्फ ये ले पाता. But because the important of this whole idea was the shivling with whatever comes with it, that is why composition, like I said, हमें क्या क्या include करना है, whatever we ought to include and what to exclude at the same time are important. So I thought of including the shivling along with everything that adds beauty to this whole structure of the temple. So I took a different point of view, a different viewing angle, a different angle from which the image is actually taken up. I mean, apart from the, like I said, very common ones that you see on the internet. So that's about the point of view. Okay. So when again, I could have shot someone jumping just like that, right? Side se leta. But no, because I need to have different point of view. So I just I was lying down on the floor. I made my daughter jump over me and I shot this. Right. So it is again, I mean, a much rarely seen image, right? That someone is jumping over and doing things, right? So that is what point of view matters, right? The way I want to show, the way I want to include images, the way I want to include elements inside an image is what matters. The way I see the image, right? So मुझे पहले से पता था कि मुझे क्या शूट करना है. I didn't go for a typical person jumping from one step to other, from side or from top or from. I wanted a different point of view. I wanted to show to my audience how does it look like if you lie down and see someone jumping over you. That is where point of view comes into play, right? So I wanted my viewer to have an idea of how would you see if someone is jumping over you. हम ऐसे सोते नहीं कभी, right? We don't sleep, and so we are not lying on the ground and letting someone else jump over us, right? But because that's an action, so I wanted to have this point of view to just kind of show, to compose an image that is different from what other images are of anyone jumping, say sidewise, say from top. Okay. Okay. So the other aspect of composition is the perspective, right? So often to get perspective, the point of view is important. But no, the thing is, point of view and perspective are often misunderstood. दोनों एक ही तरह से यूज करते हैं जो गलत है. Now perspective when I say is about making smaller things look bigger and bigger things look smaller. So the day I shot that Howrah Bridge, I happened to be in the morning and went to this Maidan, I mean, to a place called Maidan in Kolkata. Right? There's a famous ground. I mean, every photographer from Kolkata would actually identify this whole place. So the icon, of course, apart from this tower, there is this uh, uh, so Victoria Memorial on the other end. And what is the identity of this whole place is those free roaming horses all over the ground, right? So मैंने सोचा कि क्यों ना इन दोनों को टावर जो कि उसकी पहचान है ग्राउंड की और एक घोड़े जो वहां पे हमेशा रहते हैं, right? Every photographer will always have these horses in their frame if they're shooting on like on Maidan. That's a given. So I was seeing a nice sunrise. Now this tower is around 46 floors high. It's an icon, right? And again, the horse that is an icon of the Maidan. Now, how did I play with the perspective? Is I made the horse look much bigger than the tower. In fact, we know that it is a trick, but then no, that's how it is done. I wanted to show it just that way, right? So what I did is I just went down all the way. I was on almost on the floor, right? This horse was getting a bit restless, so I would just walk with him for him to get a bit calm and get used to my presence. Then I took my position and composed the image in such a way so that it gives it's a different perspective, right? It shows the horse much bigger than this 46 story high tower. That is the way the image was composed. Okay. So and again, the idea was to include the two identities of this whole place, right? The place is called Maidan, और मैदान जो कोलकाता में ये place है, वहाँ पर ये tower iconic है और एक घोड़े हैं और दूसरी तरफ Victoria Memorial भी है, right? So obviously I have too many shots from there. There's no point in sharing all of them, but I just wanted to show how does perspective also plays a role in compositing an image, right? So obviously the thing is to get an amazing perspective, to get a different perspective, you need to play with the point of view. You need to have a different viewing angle. So अगर मैं खड़े होके शॉट लिया होता तो ये नहीं मिलता था. I would not have been able to show the perspective. That's what matters. That's what comes in the point of view. Because I wanted to show perspective, therefore my point of view have to be different than just standing upright. Just imagine कि मैं अगर इसको खड़ा होके just I'm standing upright, so I'm at the level of the horse and the shooting, then the whole idea would have been spoiled. I would not have been able to show the perspective that I wanted to show. So that's what is one of the rule of composing, right? So the rule of thirds, like I said, is so important. So are the leading lines. So no matter what, if you can find some leading line somewhere, so you may be at a place. Suppose कहीं पे आप कहीं hill station पर हो, right? So every hill station in India is identified with those railings, right? कि कहीं कोई फिसल न जाए उसकी railing होती है. तो वो just an idea to for you to shoot, right? You can take those railings which are at the valley point, right? You can take those as the leading lines. So include those, and that will give the depth into the image. तो आपको वो depth, वो अगर railing के साथ में shoot किया आपने तो आपको depth दिखाई देती है image में, right? So leading lines take you through the depth of the image. आपको पूरी journey कराती हैं. That's why the leading is so important. Like I said, point of view and perspective are also very important when we talk about the basic rules of composition. Like I said, there are so many other things. We can talk about symmetry, we can talk about patterns, we can talk about textures, so many things we can talk about. But then because of the limited time frame that we have, and no, I'll just skip those all. They are pretty trivial, right? And let me jump over to my other favorite topic, that is creative photography. So I'm sure that this whole piece of how the composition can be done must have kind of evoke some interest into the audience, right? So I mean, Saraswati, if there are any questions, you can just I mean, I can answer them.
Okay, after this also we can have a question answer session, but if you want, I can ask you in between also. How are you comfortable, sir?
It's either way, not a problem. I mean, because I just want if there are people who have raised some query, I would be, I mean, I can address that.
Yes, so I'll ask you the first question. It's
Yeah.
that most of the photographers are very stick to Photoshop. means they think that through Photoshop only a photo can become more beautiful and it can show something more creative. But so what do you think, that is for Photoshop ruining the art of the photography, the real photograph? So is it a
Well,
support for
don't, well, if yeah, see, when we talk about Photoshop, right? People are taking it to an extreme level. They
it?
are
Right.
no, they are not clicking images. They are just taking images from one place and all that are available on the internet and putting them in place and giving a different effect. Now that I would not call photography. That I would call, art of a different form. It's a right. So it's a digital art, I would say. That is not photography, right? So Photoshop, of course, helps you to enhance your image, do some color correction, change some
Right.
alignments if there are some tilt, do these all corrections. But what the trend these days is taking photoshopping or making photoshopping is like, you make anything, look possible, which is not right. So I see so many of images that which are done on Photoshop. There's a person, who is now एकदम शेर के साथ बैठा है. It's not possible. It's clear that it's all manipulation. So that, if we classify that as a separate art, it's fine. But if we mix it with photo, that is a
Right.
sin, I would say.
Very true, sir. Thank you,
Right.
sir. And I think most of the students have this question that while beginning their career in photography, so are they have to mean limit themselves into a specific field like wildlife photographers or nature photographer, or in the beginning only they have to keep exploring every field and not just limit themselves to a one particular, you know,
Yeah,
genre?
I would suggest give yourself time, right? Because photography is such a huge, there's so many different genre, right? Unless you know each of them, at least should have at least taste of them. तो कम से कम स्वाद तो चखो, खाना बाद में खाना, right? So you should at least have a taste of all of them and then take a wise decision on what you should do. There are some who are drawn into wildlife, right? So of course for them it's fine. But then who are at a crossroad of what to do, I would rather advise them to know to kind of explore all that interests you, not about everything. Explore what all interests you and then take wise decision. तो ऐसे वो अपने थ्री इडियट के जो फरहान जैसे लोग कम होते हैं जो शुरुआत से लाइक वाइल्ड लाइफ की बात ही करते हैं, no? So of course there are some
Right.
who are driven by by wildlife and nature. For them, they should carry their. जिसको शुरुआत से बचपन से ही वो शौक है, उनको उसी वही एक्चुअली वही करना चाहिए. But for those who are still not clear, I would rather advise them to, explore all genres of their interest and then take a decision.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. You can continue with the session. We'll again have a question
Yeah,
answer after
fine.
this.
Yeah, fine. So like I said, my two favorites every time and very dear topics to me. The first one I've taken up was about composition. The second one is about creative photography, right? So that is something no, it's very very interesting and dear to me. So what is creative photography? Basically, is whenever you are showing things which are not normally seen, or what our eyes even can't see, is what is uh, is to me is creative photography. There are so many different definitions of creative photography available on the internet. What what grabbed my attention was this, right? Because anything that is clicked in a way that not everyone would see, not even our eyes would generally see, is what we would call creative photography, right? So the mantra is show the unseen. जो नहीं दिखता वो दिखाना होता है. I'll share some of my images that actually do the same. To show the unseen is the thing, right? So whenever we capture an image in a very imaginative way, right? Very imaginative way, that is when we say that we are doing creative photography. Let me give you a simple example, right? हम लोग अभी कभी we are we may go to some garden sometime. Okay. बहुत छोटा सा बहुत अच्छा सा एग्जांपल है. हम गार्डन में जाते हैं, बहुत अच्छे फूल आजकल आ रहे हैं. So we see a lot of flowers blossoming, and we just click them, just stand up and click them. Now why can't we show to the world the way these flowers will be seen by an insect on the ground? by an ant on the ground, right? तो क्या कभी किसने ऐसा लेट के फूल का फोटो लेने का सोचा? Lying on the ground, taking the flower up, right? Just show it the way an ant would see. एक कीड़ा कैसे दिखाएगा ऊपर फूल खिल रहा है तो that is what is the creative part of doing this all, right? So the typical way of shooting the image is now, so like I said, फूल के फोटो खींचना है, खड़े हुए फोटो खींच लिया, done, right? But why not think differently? Why not do things differently, right? That is what stands us apart from the entire crowd, right? तो भीड़ से अलग होना है तो थोड़ा अलग करना पड़ता है. That's what I have learned. So like I said, now show the unseen. जो हमारे आंखों को भी नहीं दिखता वो दिखाएं हम फोटो लेके, या फिर जो नॉर्मल लोग नहीं देख पाते, जैसे मैंने कहा, एग्जांपल दिया कि कौन गार्डन में जाके नीचे लेट के फूल देखेगा, राइट? कोई नहीं देखता ऐसा, राइट? We have to show it that way. That is where the creativity comes, right? So if we go by this definition, no, there can be overlap of different genres with this part of photography, right? So we can have creative landscape, we can have creative street, we can have creative night photography, we can have so many other things, right? So every genre can therefore have its creative aspect. Okay, so that's what we need to talk about, right? So there are some which I would rather classify as creative landscape, I would say, the way I have done, and some have been done at home, right? तो कई बार क्या होता है कि कुछ कहानी दिमाग में रहती है, वो कहानी के पीछे फोटो लेना होता है. I'll share my thoughts in all the minutes that I'm going to share now. Okay, so how do you do it? How do you do creative photography? Is now develop an interest in seeing things in a different way than normal. That's what it is, right? हमें चीजों को ऐसे दिखाना है जो नॉर्मली नहीं दिखाई देती है. We have to show the things that our normal man, common man, or our eyes would not see. That's what we have to show, right?
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Sir, can you hear me? Sir, actually, your voice is not audible enough.
Yeah, his voice is not audible. Are you able to listen me?
Yes, ma'am, I can listen. Yes, ma'am, I can listen you.
I think just wait for a minute. Maybe there is some internet connectivity issue.
Okay.
Hello. Hello. Saraswati, beta, can you listen to me?
Yes, ma'am, I can listen to you.
Okay, it's like technical glitches, that's very common, like, in the online sessions. Acha, tell me, like, abhi tak, like, which was your favorite photograph? Like, sir was actually depicting a lot of photographs, right? Like, which was like, like he was talking about the leading lines, he was talking about the depth of field. But look, which photograph was like, more attached? Like, you were quite inclined to which photograph?
Ma'am, the one photograph was the guitar one because it was very unique one. And
Hmm.
one thing that struck my mind was
Hmm.
about the rule of third. I mean, we
Okay.
always keep in the mind that the main object should come into in between.
Hmm.
But what Sir said that keeping it into the left third and to the right third can give a new look to the photograph. So
Hmm.
that is where I'm very interested to explore.
Hmm.
Otherwise, the guitar one I find it very unique,
Hmm.
especially that shriveling one, that shriveling which had a point of view. That
Hmm.
was also very good. Means found it very differently. And when Sir said about that donkey picture, that sorry, the horse one,
Hmm.
when the horse was there, means
Hmm.
why Sir called it perspective because the he was showing the horse huge.
Yeah,
I mean, so
exactly.
that was something very different
And
one.
even you remember there was a
And
picture
all
of
the pictures were actually ma'am very
huh,
amazing.
picture of the sun which
And
was
the
coming
jump one
across.
as well because we always think that
Hmm.
somebody's jumping from front or side.
Hmm.
Uh, ma'am,
Huh,
can you
huh.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah, beta, I can hear you. Huh. And even you remember there was one picture of the bridge where the sun is coming across,
Right, right. The sparkle, the leading lines.
leading lines. So, like for example, like how much you are interested into photography as such. Like you have already studied the subject in the second day semester of your BJMC. How much you were into it?
I was not much into photography. I was into writing in different perspective. But after listening to this webinar as well, I
Hmm.
could find I want to explore now. I want to take a camera. I want to experiment with rules of third, with
Hmm.
leading line. I want to actually. I'm really very eager to go ahead for this.
Hmm.
And yes, it is creating an interest in me.
Yeah, and like for example, when you talked about the various like wedding photographers or the wildlife photographers, there are various different fields. I think sir is back.
Yes, he's back.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm sorry for the glitch, right? I mean, it was just
It's okay, sir. We can understand. It happens
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. So I'll just share my slide. I mean, I'll just check it out. Are we live now?
Yes, sir. We are live. We are
Okay.
live.
I'll just check how to I get that. Uh, I'll just put my video off, ma'am, for some time.
Yes.
Acha, tell me, Saraswati, how different is like, like have you ever like have a, shot a shot? I mean, like for example, in the natural or in the artificial scenario. Like, did you find any of the difference out there? Artificial lights or the
I
natural?
found
Hmm.
like difference when Sir shot that leading lines one, I
Hmm.
could means it came into mind like a symmetrical form.
Hmm.
Means the leading lines were showing symmetry. So I was just assembling that in my first second semester. I could have used, so I would have got more ideas about it.
Hmm.
I mean, how to have a means good photograph. Good
Hmm.
for
And now I think you might have got a very clear perspective, like, before the webinar started. So when we were having a, like, talk with this, he was like, we were talking about the, the cameras. Generally, like, like the students, they have a certain mindset, ki, expensive camera, they more, sir is back.
Ma'am, your video is paused.
My video is paused.
No,
Uh,
actually, you are visible. Sir has put up his video on
Okay. Okay.
just because he is making some settings.
Okay.
So it's good to interact meanwhile that how what we have learned out of
Ye- Yes, ma'am.
earlier session which we were having about.
Hmm.
Actually, photography is needs
Hmm.
a skill of creative creation. It is
Hmm.
a matter of creative thinking.
Yeah,
It's
ma'am,
very
I have,
important.
to be very honest, ma'am, even I have seen, ma'am, lot of you also, ma'am, keep on clicking lot of pictures. That too, I have seen, like, you're like the sky ones. So, ma'am, like, I just,
It doesn't have any,
hmm,
as I am a non-tech in that area,
yeah, yeah,
so that doesn't have any specific,
hmm,
you can say, technique which I have
yeah,
applied. I have just clicked the
hmm,
view. So, but using some techniques makes the picture more
more.
influenced, you can
Yes,
say.
yes, ma'am. That's what, like before the webinar, ma'am, when we went, like when we have gone live regarding it, we were having a word with sir. So we were just asking, sir, how important is the vision for the photographer? The sir was actually rightly, he said, it's the always the eye behind the camera which works. Like
Right.
many of my ma'am students, like I could see, ma'am, they like they have this urge of, buying expensive cameras, कि पहले कैमरा खरीद लेते हैं फिर जाके फोटोग्राफी. बट सर का एक पॉइंट था जो बहुत अच्छा लगा कि नहीं, it is always the vision and the eye which plays a very important role. Even a
That we
हाँ,
have a discussion even that it is not only the camera. You
hmm,
can take a good picture from
yes,
the simple mobile camera even.
yes, ma'am.
It is the vision behind the taking the picture.
Yeah, that is what. एक जैसे sir की, like one of the pictures was talking about the perspective. So there
Right.
is, like, lot of things which are added to it. Like technical things are important after when we go enroll into these photography courses, or we get enroll into the professional courses like BJMC. But like I can see, ma'am, a lot of people, clicking photographs from the mobile. Like yes, I can see, but that's a very, beauty of it. So I suppose my students who all are listening to this, they might have got an idea regarding it. Ki it's the vision and the perspective which plays a very important role, rather than, like expensive cameras can be bought afterwards. DSLR, SLR.
Very true.
Sir,
So,
yes, sir.
you know, what I'll do is I'll just kind of, just address the questions because there's some issue with the file. I'm not able to share the file that I have. I mean, so I have logged in from my phone now,
Mhm.
and the PPT is not opening here. So can I just have question answer instead, right? And anything that the students would like to know.
That will be fine, sir. We can have the question answers because students have posted so many questions on the
Fine,
live.
fine. And I'm extremely sorry for no
It's okay, sir. We can
for all
understand
this.
it happens so many times.
Yeah.
Totally okay. So, Saraswati, you can start with the question answers which the student has posted on Facebook.
Firstly, sir, thank you. It was really a very knowledgeable session.
Yeah.
So I'll continue with the questions what students have uploaded.
Yeah.
It's first how to create simple in-home or in-studio lighting setup. Means if in house they are setting up a studio, so what all should be essentials should be considered.
Yeah. See, to set up a studio, the thing is you should be very careful about the lighting, right? So either you buy artificial lights like flashes, speed lights, strobes, right? And at the same time, what is important is to have a nice backdrops. So you should have a set of backdrops if you are planning to have some indoor studio setup. So you should invest a lot, or you should create your own backdrops. At the same time, you should make sure that apart from the artificial light that you are planning, there should also be a provision of a good sunlight coming in, right? Because not all shots that are taken with artificial lights are good. Sometimes no, natural light with an artificial background also works very nice. That's the whole thing.
Right, sir. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. The second question, that what are the professional ethics a photographer should always follow?
Yeah. See, the very basic is no, we tend to shoot anyone, right? The ethics that I always that I always stick by is whenever you're shooting someone, no, try to get his or her assent, right? We should take the permission first. So go and people are actually eager to, I mean, to give their photographs, right? Just that if you're polite enough and if you know kind of acknowledge the fact that they respect their privacy, right? That is why now we should be upfront in reaching out to them and have a word with them and at least explain why we are shooting and what and where will this photo be shared, right? So it's always good to have consent. That is what means the basic professional ethics, right? Because generally हम क्या करते हैं किसी का फोटो ले लिया और कहीं पे भी शेयर कर दिया. So that is something that we should avoid. Instead of we should take the permission of the person who we are shooting.
Yes, thank you, sir. And the next question is, sir, that white balance means how can we just use white balance in our photograph?
Yeah, see, what does the white balance stand for is how do you see whites? Okay. So it's just about अगर हमें जो सफेद है वो actually सफेद दिखता है कि नहीं. That is what the white balance actually means. So when we go to see the white balance has two aspects, right? That is one is uh, you can have warm tone or you can have cool tones. What does that mean is white may look warm when we have the white balance moving towards the higher side, and that scale is called Kelvin, right? तो Kelvin अगर ज्यादा है तो हम ये कहते हैं कि the tones are warmer, right? If the Kelvin value is less, I mean 5600 is actually the base value. So 5600 Kelvin है तो सब white दिखता है. But if we move towards right, we say that we are moving towards warmer tones. If we move towards the left, and to a lower uh, K value, we say that we are moving towards the cooler tones, prominently blue, right? So I mean that's what white balance plays a role. Okay, so some people deliberately include warmer tones. That is, they use much more of oranges and yellows, right? Some people have a tendency to show white as blue, thoda sa blue. So that is when they say that they're working with a cooler tones, right? They are cooler white balance. Okay?
Right, thank you, sir. Our students also wanted to know that as beginning photography means beginning a field in photography. So, what thing they should be more focused at the exposure triangle or the creativity means what the main key focus should
Yeah,
be that
yeah.
they can have.
You understand? See, the thing is, no, creativity is one part. That's what I touched upon because I was assuming that not all would know the technical language that I'll speak, right? So therefore, I started with that. But you can be much more creative. You can compose your image much better if you know how to handle your camera. See, the camera is a beast in our hand. एक एक घोड़ा है जिसको लगाम देनी होती है. So we should know how to use it, right? So therefore, it's important for us to know everything that comes with this operation, how to change the shutter speed, how to change the aperture value, and what role do they all play. That's important, right? How does aperture affect the depth of field? That's what we should know. How should shutter speed, include the motion blur? That's what we should know, right? How does ISO include the noises in the image? That's what we should know. And that's when things get when these things are learned properly. That's when we have to move a bit ahead. That's the artistic aspect of it,
Thank
right?
you so much,
So
sir.
these both things go hand in hand.
Right. Thank you.
सिर्फ सिर्फ photography, मतलब सिर्फ just knowing the explore triangle is not enough to I mean to get good photography unless you know the basic rule like of the composition, right? And just knowing composition without knowing what explore triangle will do again is a waste of. So it goes hand in hand.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Now I would kindly request Arushi ma'am to end the session with a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your words of wisdom and leading the session very successfully. I believe all my students and viewers have learned something great from this session, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Bhavna,
madam. I'm sorry that no, it has to happen. My power has restored actually now, just now. I mean, so maybe we can continue or we can have some like some other session like this, right? I mean, it's all
yes,
your call.
yes, sir. So we would love to have you, sir. Like, we will be calling you here in the college for a session, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma'am.
Bhavna,
Thank
ma'am,
you
you
so
want to
much.
say something?
Yes, obviously, Arushi. I would like to say thanks to Sir on behalf of KCC Institute and on my own behalf. Sir, we are really fortunate. Thank you so much. And we will be
Thanks, madam.
taking
And again, my apologies for the glitch. I mean, I just never expected this to happen, right?
it hardly matters. It's okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.